Let me get on my little mic train. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dr. Burchett Show. Today I am joined by my favorite dietitian of all time.
It's on camera now, so you can't go back.
I'll stand by it. Allison Evanson is here. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. Allison helped me write the book, The Gentleman's Diet, and our conversations years ago kind of has greatly influenced what I think about food, diet, exercise, all of it. So welcome to the show.
I'm pleased to be here.
Pleased to be here. That's great. So right away, let's give people two things. I want two things from my favorite dietitian that would be beneficial, very important. What would you want people to know? Two things right off the bat.
So we're going to talk a lot more about my approach to this, but I think that if we're looking for two little sound bites, the first sound bite would be that it's really important for people to be able to distinguish different types of hunger, right? Whether they're eating for physical hunger, whether they're eating for emotional hunger, whether they're eating because the food just tastes so darn good.
Wait a minute. So hungry is not hungry.
Hungry is not hungry. And I think that we often eat because it's time, or we eat because it's there, or we eat because for social reasons. And
okay.
I spend a lot of time talking about the different types of hunger. And so I think that's an important thing to go. And then if I had to choose
Wow,
one,
I want more about that already. That was a great teaser. Okay, what else?
And if I had to choose, I have a lot of favorite foods.
You like chocolate.
I do love chocolate. Yes. I once made the mistake of telling you that I have chocolate every day, and it's still, I've kept up the routine.
You've kept that promise to yourself.
Absolutely. But I would say, second to chocolate, something that I think most people should be eating every single day are some sort of nuts. Nuts are a perfect little package of protein and fiber and fat. It's a great snack. It's a great addition to a meal. And I don't discriminate. Whatever type of nuts you like, not salted.
Big fan of nuts. I did not expect that's what you were going to say.
Surprise!
Okay, different types of hunger and nuts. We're going to talk more about that. But for just a second, I want to introduce Allison to you. Okay, Allison is not a clown blogger on the internet. She did not get a degree in 3 months from reading a bunch of books, and she's not a writer like that or a blogger. You're a real dietitian. So I want to talk a little more about that. What's the education training like for that?
So I'm really glad we're talking about this, because there's so much confusion out there based on dietitian versus nutritionist versus herbalist versus, there's so many different nutrition-based professions. And it's really important to me that people know the difference. And so to become what is called a registered dietitian,
RD.
It requires a minimum of a bachelor's, although many people, including myself, go along and get your master's as well.
So you went to college for 4 years and got a
Yeah.
That's not a word, a bachelor's. And then you got a master's in nutrition.
In nutrition.
Your bachelor's was in nutrition?
My bachelor's was in biology.
Okay.
My master's was in nutrition.
And so the master's is how many years?
Another 2 to 3.
Wait a minute, 3? Did you?
Yeah.
Did you kind of?
I might as well have gone to medical school,
You could
right?
have gone to medical school. Okay,
know.
so was yours 3 years or 2 years?
Mine was 2.5.
Oh, okay, 2.5. You didn't fail a couple classes.
Absolutely not. I actually snuck out of there a semester early.
Okay, well I didn't know why the 2 to 3 range. I just want to make sure that my favorite dietitian was actually.
I'm legit. I'm up there.
So 2.5. So for 2.5 years at a master's level, you studied nutrition.
Yeah.
That is a lot of training. That is not a 6-month sabbatical where you read a bunch of nutrition books. Okay, 2.5 years. This is legit. And then what?
And then there's a year-long internship where...
Do you guys do an internship? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that's so this is 3.5 years all about food.
All about food.
This is incredible. You are a professional.
Yep.
This is a big deal. Okay, I want to emphasize this. And then you've had clinical experience with actual people and patients.
Yes.
How long have you done that?
So I've been a practicing dietitian for a little over 6 years now. And I've worked in both what's called the inpatient or clinical setting, so in the hospital.
In the hospital where people are sick.
That's how you and I met.
Yep.
And we work together on, with some pretty sick patients. And then also in what we call the outpatient setting. So it's people come to me either on their own or the doctors send them because of new diagnosis for diabetes or other nutrition-related medical issues, of which most are. And
So you deal with like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity,
food allergies.
Allergies?
Yeah.
Okay. So like gluten intolerance and all this kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And you talk about gut health and probiotics. Like all of this is in your wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
And all of this stuff is totally in the news and the media. I'm really curious to get your opinions on all that stuff.
Yeah. We've come to the right place.
That's a great line. So, okay, 3.5 years of training and then 6 years of actual doing it. And you've helped people lose weight.
I have.
You've helped a lot of people lose weight.
Yeah.
Some people have lost like 100 pounds.
Yep.
You've got a lot of things you can tell and teach people about how to lose weight, how to adjust your diet if you're diabetic, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, so those get better. A wealth of information. This is making me excited to get into this.
Good.
Okay, we're gonna pause for just a second and then we're gonna get more into exactly all this stuff, Allison's approach, having seen all this and all this education in just a second. Okay, let me just, cut! We're doing all of that over because my hair was in my face. We're not doing all of that over.
Good.
We're on a time crunch. Okay, so we've established you are a professional, you have experience helping people do this, both normal people that need to lose a couple pounds and people that are actually sick with diabetes and all these complicated medical issues with their diet as well. So what do you want people to know? What's your general approach? Like what works? What have you seen?
So it's been interesting to reflect back on, myself as a brand new dietitian, just coming out of school, seeing my first patients
6 years ago.
And I wanted to teach them everything that I knew. I wanted them to have all the knowledge. I wanted everyone to just be so in love with eating healthy that I would lose sleep over it. And
you were excited. I like that.
I was so excited. And really what I have been able to do as I've done this more and more and met different types of people in different environments is discovered that it needs to be simple, right? As simple and realistic as possible is appreciated by people, and it's so much easier to follow through. I fear that in my early years, not that I would give them bad information, but I would give them too much information that they would leave from my office and not know what to do with it.
It's overwhelming and can be confusing.
Yeah. And so my approach at this point, number one, is to keep in mind that every patient is different. There is no one diet, there is no one fad, there is no one gluten, carb, fat, protein that fits all. My job when I'm working with patients is to figure out where they're at and what's going to be realistic for them.
One size does not fit all. What works for an individual? Kind of trying to figure that out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And some of my initial interventions with people are to spend less time talking about specific foods. People say, well, I've heard that I need to be eating coconut oil and kale and quinoa
and blueberries.
And how do I do this? And that's important. Those are all such great foods. And we can talk a lot more about it. But when you are first out of the gate, that is too high level and too specific.
And it's probably low yield. It's probably
Yes.
not going to make as big of a difference as some other things you would probably focus on. It's about the focus.
Exactly. And so really, one of the things that I focus on is meal structure, right? So when you are going to have a meal, how do you put things together that are both nutritious but satisfying? You know, so many times, again, people have come to me and said, okay, I've tried to have a lunch or a salad for lunch every day, and I'm starving. Well, that's clearly not working for you.
Is that what you mean by satisfying? Like,
Yes.
it fills you up, you feel full.
Like it lasts you. Like you can eat a meal and you don't feel like you're on a diet, and you don't feel like you're hungry an hour later.
How long would you say satisfied? Like, how long does it last?
Ideally, 3 to 4 hours. You know.
So if you eat something and you're hungry in an hour, that is not filling. If you eat some salad, and you're hungry an hour later,
you've not chosen the right combinations of food. And that's, I feel, one of the biggest things that derails people when they're trying to diet or eat well, is they over restrict and try and live on fruits and vegetables alone.
too big of a step or too extreme.
They're not satisfied, so they're starving. And then they throw in the towel and they go back to what they were
like
doing.
a starve yourself diet,
Yeah.
restricted diet that fails, and then whatever weight you've lost, you put
Right.
it back on.
Right. So it's about how to put together meals in a way that's satisfying. And you and I have talked a ton about this, right?
Yeah.
How satisfying protein
Yeah.
is at every meal. That's super important.
So let's take that salad example. Let's
Okay.
say somebody just ate like a basic salad. They were hungry an hour or so later. What would you tell them? What could they add to that to feel more full so that they don't have to eat an hour later?
So the 3 types of things that I like to pull into every meal, right? We can talk about snacks next if you want. But the 3 types of things that are must-haves at every meal are a source of protein, a source of good healthy fat, and some sort of vegetable.
Protein, healthy fat, vegetable.
With all of those present, that is going to provide you the satisfaction for 3 or 4 hours.
So all 3 of those. So if you got some good fats, protein, and a vegetable, then that's probably, if you're eating enough quantity,
Yeah,
gonna fill you up for 3 or 4 hours.
right.
When you say meal, are you talking 3 squares a day with some snacks in between?
Completely different for everyone.
Okay.
Some people wake up and they have breakfast, lunch, a snack, and dinner, right? That's kind of the typical. But I have plenty of patients who aren't really that hungry in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get up and maybe they have a snack, a snack instead of a full meal, and then their first real meal is lunch. Fine.
So they have a little something to begin. Do you think it's okay? I don't want to derail you and ask too many questions.
Yeah.
Can some people just not eat breakfast at all? Is that okay?
So this, you might be surprised. This is something that I've 180'd on since you and I were last talking.
Oh man, you're changing on me.
I'm
huh?
changing on you.
This might be our last podcast.
I used to
Not
be
allowed to change your mind.
pretty adamant that breakfast was really important.
Okay.
There is research that people who eat breakfast have lower body weights, and people who eat breakfast have...
In general. For most people.
However, if there is, we're going to go back to the idea of hunger again.
Okay.
If people wake up and they are truly not hungry until 10 or 11 or lunchtime, right?
Or lunch.
Breakfast is not essential.
But I would say that's probably an exception, not the rule. And most people would probably benefit from getting something in their stomach and getting their metabolism going earlier.
Yes. And here's how you know if breakfast is important or not.
This is good. This is good stuff.
By the time you do, if you are someone who's not a breakfast eater,
Yeah.
by the time you do eat, whether that's, at a break or something at 10 or 11, or whether that's 12 or 1 at lunchtime, if you are so starving that you crave like the simple processed food, right? You're craving the pizza and the hamburger and the chips and the cookies.
Mm-hmm.
So if you crave those sorts of things, and if you consume them quickly and in really large quantities, you have waited far too long to eat.
Let's just echo that. If you're craving bad food, a lot of it, and you just wolf it down, you probably benefit from eating something earlier. Snack, even if it's just a protein bar or something.
Right.
That makes sense. On the other hand, if you don't eat breakfast, you get to lunch, and you can have a reasonable lunch.
Yeah, you have a reasonable lunch, your hunger isn't out of control, you feel fine, you don't feel, and that's again, this is individualized. I cannot professionally come out and say everybody needs to eat breakfast. Most people probably do, whether it's a big breakfast or, you know, an apple with some almonds, a more snack-like breakfast, that can vary. But I think it's really, really important to pay attention to your hunger levels because let's face it, our bodies, and you know this as a doctor, right? Our bodies communicate with us a lot, and we are really good about ignoring it.
Ooh. Like ignoring hunger.
Absolutely. We go, oh, but it's not lunchtime yet, or let me finish this report.
But I think most people, when they ignore hunger, what they tell themselves, the meaning is, oh, okay, I'm doing this because I want to lose some weight, and by not, eating, then I'm burning a little more fat or something.
Right. And unfortunately, weight loss is about the long game. And
I love that. I love that.
And when you are
sustained weight loss, not this.
When you are in a place where you are feeling physically hungry, again, if you're bored, then that doesn't, that's not hunger. If you are sad or anxious or happy, right? Those
various emotions that you may kind of confuse for hunger.
Right. That's not the time to eat. But if you are physically feeling hungry, you need to honor that. Otherwise, you're going to get...
By eating?
Yes.
So wait a minute. This sounds revolutionary. When you're hungry, you're saying you should eat.
Yeah. Absolutely. Otherwise, what happens?
That's incredible.
What happens?
You get hungrier.
And then what do you choose?
You eat a lot and you eat crap.
Yeah. And too much of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's the penny wise, pound foolish, idea. We kind of nickel.
Penny wise, pound foolish.
In terms of, we try and, not have breakfast or skip snack, but then by the time we do eat, we make up for whatever we thought we saved and then some.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
You mentioned individual.
Yeah.
It's got to work for you. Your diet has to work with you, your life. Is there one diet for everybody? Is there a better diet? Low carb, low fat, Atkins, paleo, Mediterranean. I feel like in medicine we push Mediterranean a lot.
Right.
What do you think? Is there like one diet for everybody?
No, is the short answer. The little bit longer answer is I'm all about takeaways, right?
Okay.
So the takeaway for those of you watching this is no, there's no one diet. There's a lot of research on a lot of different types of diets, the Mediterranean, the DASH diet to decrease hypertension, certain diets for, to lower, risk of cancer and, et cetera. I would say that most people do better on a lower carbohydrate diet with adequate protein and healthy fat, and then of course lots and lots of vegetables.
Now, when you say, let's just unpackage that a little bit. So basically you said, well, most people probably low carb. Lower carb.
Right.
What are carbs?
So carbohydrates are essentially the preferred source of fuel for the body, right?
More than fats?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what they use first when they're available.
Okay.
And it's more readily available.
It's what your body uses first for fuel is carbs first. So give me examples of carbs.
So carbohydrates are found in any grain or food made with flour. So
Okay.
oatmeal, bread,
rice,
yep. Any starchy vegetable.
potato,
like
sweet potato. Okay.
corn. Fruits have carbohydrates, and then milk has carbohydrate in it. And so, what happens...
Technically, a vegetable is a carbohydrate.
Depends on what type of vegetable you're talking about.
Broccoli.
Not a carbohydrate.
I thought there were 3 macros.
Right.
Fats, protein, and carbs.
Right.
So I threw vegetables in the carbs.
Vegetables are...
Like broccoli.
Broccoli, for example, actually has a little bit of carb and a little bit of protein, but not enough to count towards any of the groups. And so I really talk about there being 4 groups. You have your fat, your protein, your carbohydrates, and your vegetables.
Okay.
And going back to, we quickly got away from our salad for lunch example, but so if we loop back around,
that was a long time ago.
if we loop back around to that, it should sound familiar though, right? We talked about the importance of having proteins, fats, and vegetables
at each meal.
Now, when someone just has,
where's the carbs?
Rabbit food, for example, people, have a salad with lettuce and tomatoes and carrots.
Only vegetables.
And there's no protein and no fat. Of course they're going to be hungry an hour later. Or if they have something that's all carb with no protein, they're going to be hungry.
And why is it, if you add some healthy fat and add protein, that it sustains you longer? Why is that?
Well, in terms of...
I actually have wondered this for...
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So it has to do with how quickly things are digested.
Okay.
Okay? Carbohydrates are digested incredibly quickly.
When I think about this, I think about cotton candy, right? That frothy sugar. I feel like you put it on your tongue and it is minutes and that is in your bloodstream.
Absolutely.
That's like an extreme example of fast processed carbs. But then like a potato or a sweet potato, it's gonna take a little longer to break down, and it'll, instead of kind of going like up and down, like it's in and like maybe it's like a little more like that.
Right. And so within what you're alluding to is within the group of carbohydrates, not all carbs are created equal. A sweet potato is going to be better than a pancake.
Yeah.
Or an orange is going to be better than orange juice.
Right.
And the more whole a carbohydrate, right, unprocessed, untouched a carbohydrate is, the slower it digests, which means the more satisfying it is. We want your body to really have to work to get the nutrients out of it. When it comes to protein and fat, it takes your body a while to get the nutrients out of it. It takes your body a while.
It just takes longer to digest
almonds, and
so
it
you're
takes
gonna feel fuller. Okay.
It takes a while for your body to digest an avocado, or olive oil, or chicken, or fish, or something like that. And we can use that to our advantage so that we feel satisfied. The worst feeling on the planet for someone who's trying to lose weight is to feel hungry all the time. And so if you can put meals together so that you are not hungry all the time, you have an exponential chance of being successful.
Especially in the long run.
Absolutely.
Because starvation diets, I don't know the exact mechanism, but you'll crack after time, right? Like most people just aren't going to be able to starve themselves for the long haul.
The majority of people, it's not sustainable. And that's a really important part of my approach. Before a patient leaves my office every day, we come up with 2 to 3 things, very specific things that they're ready to work on. And it is always completely up to them. I provide the tools and suggestions.
Options.
But it's up to each patient. And as they are deciding, okay, yeah, I think that I can, do X, Y, or Z, or work on X, Y, or Z before I see you next month. It's important that I say, okay, well, how realistic is this? Is this something you can see yourself still doing in 6 months or still doing in a year? And if they go, oh, I don't think I can do that for a year, then we're not even going to bother with it.
Don't even waste your time trying.
No.
You want things that they're going to stick to for the long haul.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest compliments that I can get from a patient is for them to, either when they're leaving my office from a visit or they come back for a follow-up, is to say, you know what, Allison, that wasn't so bad. I can totally do this. And I see people sit up a little straighter in their chair, and instead of, crossing their arms, when they're talking to me, they relax and they're excited, because this is not about dieting and deprivation and being miserable. This is about finding a way to put foods together where you're going to be satisfied but also reach your goals.
Now, I remember one time you told me that people come to you after they've tried all of the fad diets.
Right.
Where do you start with someone like that?
Right.
Who's tried everything and it hasn't worked, and they're overweight and they're kind of hopeless. They've tried it all, everything the media has out there, and where do you start?
Individual. In my one-on-one, it's part of my get to know you visit, the very first visit with the patient. I have them walk me through typical days, and I am really trying to get at what their typical eating routine is. When do they eat? When they do eat, what do they eat, etc.
Like their habits.
Absolutely.
Day-to-day habits.
Absolutely. And from that, I can tell if certain meals are satisfying or not, right? And a classic one is people will say, okay, I get up and I have a bowl of cereal and I'm out the door, and then I'm hungry by 10, and then so I go to the, and I get a granola bar, and then I'm hungry an hour later, and then and they're frustrated because they're already hungry and it's not even lunchtime. And based on what we've already talked about, well, cereal and milk has neither protein nor fat nor vegetable.
Maybe a little bit in the milk.
Maybe a little protein.
But not enough.
And
not a lot of fat.
And so because their body burns carbohydrates really quickly, right? Their body is chugging away on that cereal and milk, and it's ready for more.
Okay, so what would you suggest the person who's having milk and cereal in the morning, what could they do?
Well, usually the people who are having milk and cereal need something quick and fast and easy.
I like that.
They don't have time to get a pan out and cook eggs, although eggs with veggies and avocado is one of my favorite breakfasts.
What veggies do you put on your eggs?
Anything that I have in the refrigerator. I'll put greens, tomatoes, squash. I'll put black beans in my egg. I put anything.
Black beans in your eggs?
A little Southwest flair. A little salsa. I'm a big egg scramble fan.
Okay.
Yes.
Getting crazy with the beans.
But if people, even as something as simple, if they need something, they don't even need to heat up a pan. Grab a handful of nuts and an apple.
Add that to the cereal milk.
Or
exchange.
Or instead of. That'll give you protein. That'll give you some good healthy fat.
I'm not gonna lie. Most of the time, I do oatmeal and eggs.
Yeah.
Sometimes I gotta run out of there and I need that quick cereal.
Yeah.
And it's true. I get hungrier quicker.
Right. So even if you were to put some, keep slivered almonds on hand and sprinkle the almonds on your cereal, that'll last you a little longer.
The cereal that I eat actually has a lot of nuts in it, but more would probably.
Absolutely. Or keep hard-boiled eggs on hand and have a hard-boiled egg with it.
That's not a bad idea.
Fruit and cottage cheese is a great option for people.
Again, adding those proteins and thinking about that healthy fat. That's like the pattern to staying full.
Yeah.
That's really simple. I think that's a great thing to apply right away. Those three things at all of your meals.
Right.
Protein, healthy fat.
And a vegetable when you can. Sometimes vegetables, especially in the morning, are a little trickier.
I still want to go more on your general approach, but besides nuts and avocado, what other healthy fats are there?
So nuts and avocado. Healthy fats also include healthy oils, right? So things like olive oil or grapeseed oil or coconut oil.
Do you just like do a shot of that?
Or cook with it.
No, but I mean, do you actual?
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Just because of my preference. People could.
Should I like drop it in? Not cooking with it.
Or
Oh, we're back. We're back. We're back. So we were talking about the 80-20 rule. I've heard some people say stick to a healthy diet, eat well most of the time, 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time you can have some pizza. You can have some McDonald's or your beloved chocolate. Yeah. What do you think about that?
So what I do like about that is that it is a way to quantify for people moderation. This is not about restriction and going overboard and depriving yourself. This is about most of the time and some of the time, right? Because after all, food is how we as humans enjoy and celebrate, and it's tradition and it's cultural, and that's what it's about. What concerns me is when people come in and they refer to cheating or being bad or ashamed or guilty, and
certainly there's a time to be bad, Allison.
we're talking about food here,
right?
But I really try and impress on those people that it doesn't need to be seen as guilty or bad or cheating when you decide to have pizza. As long as you've made that conscious decision that I'm gonna have pizza tonight. A salad would probably be better, but that's not what I feel like, and you can feel good and confident about that decision. Absolutely. I just really try and work with people not to vilify good versus bad food.
I love hearing you say that the 80-20 rule quantifies moderation. It is kind of a good rule. I mean, how else can we know? I mean, if you're eating pizza 3 times a day, every day, like too many calories, what do you tell people about moderation? How do you know if you're eating moderately?
Well, it's usually spurred on by a discussion of which foods really bring them joy, right? So I don't really like pizza. So that's not something that I'm not going to have very often, because I could give it or I could take it. But if you try and touch my chocolate, that's like a whole nother story. So watch out. And so make sure that those foods...
I love that, you and your chocolate. The dietitian that loves chocolate.
Of course. But make sure that whatever foods you are treating yourself with or having every once in a while, make sure that, number one, they truly, truly bring you enjoyment. And then, I usually tell people that you typically have room once or twice a week to have that food and not to carry around the guilt. Have pizza once a week and feel fine about that. That fits perfect in the 80-20 rule.
How much is too much?
I feel like when it starts to encroach on less of a every once in a while or special occasion, and more on every day.
Daily.
If you're having pizza 3 or 4 times a week, that's not a special occasion food. If you're having pizza once a week or twice a month, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So if it starts to become a daily or even a many times a week habit, that's something that's going to start to work against you.
Totally. It's like the exception, not the rule.
Exactly.
Becoming the daily. I got it. Let's summarize what we've talked about.
Well, I thought this was a good way to introduce my approach. I feel like everyone has something to say about nutrition. Everybody has an opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
And as we continue to chat and as I continue to write and provide my approach, it's really important that people understand a few of my takeaways. Number one, understanding that paying attention to your body is really important. Eating when you're hungry, physically hungry, not when you're bored or emotionally hungry. Paying attention to the food combinations that are satisfying. Losing weight and being healthy is not about being hungry.
Kind of scaring me now. I like it. Okay.
So, proteins, fats, vegetables, those are going to give you those stick to the ribs feelings.
Okay.
And then finally, making sure that whatever dietary changes that you're making, make sure that they're doable and realistic. If you can see yourself doing them for a week or a month, but not a year, don't bother. Find something that you can do for the long game.
God, that just sounds like the opposite of the message that we get, which is, here's the 10-day detox, here's the 21-day plan, you know? Yeah. Here's the short-term fix.
Right.
That's why I like this stuff so much. Because, you know, when we talk about like heart disease and diabetes and dying, I don't think the 10-day detoxes do much for that. But the long-term lifestyle changes, totally.
Absolutely.
This has been good. So I think we're going to talk about some specific things too.
Absolutely.
Like what?
Well, there's a ton of, in addition to like the foundational, like the what are the first things that I do to get me started, there's always trending things. And I think it's really important that you view kind of up and coming things from an educated perspective. And so, you know, I want to talk a lot about gut health and probiotics, which are booming. I want to talk a lot about new research about protein and how, you know, different types and how much we should be eating, because that's changing. There's a lot of talk about fasting, a specific type of fasting called intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting for weight loss.
That we can talk about. And you know, and there's actually so many things that I'm excited to share with you.
You're a dietitian geek.
and you know, it's one of those things that I can hardly stay on top of it. And so I think it's our job to distill this information for the viewer so that they can be handed the take home, the takeaway. They don't have to listen to the magazine covers and the flashy, sexy, you know, blurbs that catch their eye. I want the takeaways.
Well, let's do it. Let's jump right into, why don't we talk about intermittent fasting first? So my understanding of intermittent fasting is that some people use this for weight loss or weight maintenance, where, you know, instead of having 3 meals a day with snacks or 5 meals a day or whatever, occasionally, I don't know how often, once a week, once every few days, they'll just fast. Everywhere from skipping a few meals to fasting for a whole day. Is that about right? What have you heard this to be?
So intermittent fasting is actually a term that we're still trying to define. And it's interesting that was your take on intermittent fasting, because when I talk about intermittent fasting, I'm really talking about the type of mini fasts that we do every single day.
You're talking about on a daily basis,
Yes.
where we like skip a meal or something.
Well, actually, I should say that we do every single night. When I talk about intermittent fasting, I'm talking about on a day-to-day basis, limiting your caloric intake to 12 hours or less.
Okay.
So that overnight, there is at least 12 hours where you are not consuming calories. That could be...
like, you can eat from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and then nothing for the other 12.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And this research, really, fasting research has been around for a long time. And this specific type of intermittent fasting research has really been done on the basis of religious fasting. And what they've found is that during these 12-hour windows, right, if we can limit eating to 12 hours and then not eating or drinking calories, so water's okay, herbal tea's okay, things like that. For not consuming those for 12 hours, people have improved glucose control, so their blood sugar is better. They have better metabolic markers. They have improved body weights. And this is when calories are even held equal. So this is not a calorie, well, of course you're going to lose weight because you're eating fewer calories. No, this is when calories are held equal. And we see even better results when you say, okay, instead of eating over 12 hours, I'm going to eat over 10. Or
How small does it go? Is it like more, you get improved results as you continue to cut back, like
Right.
10, 8?
Yeah, I haven't seen much past a window of eating over 8 hours, fasting the rest of the time. And I like to provide options to people because for some people, limiting eating to 12 hours, that's the stretch. They can't fathom going shorter than that. There are some people who, when I've talked about this or given lectures or classes, people go, oh, I'm already doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So then maybe the next goal would be limiting it to 10. And as
Interesting.
in the last year or two, as I've played around with myself, for a while, I was the like, have a snack before bedtime kind of person. Maybe it was chocolate.
Maybe it was chocolate.
And-
little night for Allison, like.
And you know, so it was a struggle for me to kind of, okay, I get up and I eat breakfast at 7, don't eat anything after 7 at night. Now, though, I find myself, I can have dinner, and I'm an early dinner person, so I can have dinner at 5 or 6, and I'm really, truly not hungry. It's not that I'm restricting or limiting. And so people find that once they play around with this, they are slowly able to go over a shorter period of time.
Do you feel different?
I feel, yes. And I feel like intermittent fasting combined with some of the stuff we've talked about previously, when you're eating, it's mostly vegetables, good fats, and protein. I feel so much more satisfied overall. The joke used to be like, Allison's got to eat every 2 hours. It was super healthy stuff, but I wasn't.
Kind of a pain in the ass that you have to eat that frequently.
It was. I had food stashed everywhere, right? But and like you, one of the things that I was missing was good healthy fats. I wasn't even eating enough nuts and avocados and oils, and that's one simple addition. I can eat 3 times a day in an 8 or 10 hour window and be totally fine.
This is an interesting thing. So here's, for me personally, here's my reaction to this. Number one, I wake up in the middle of the night hungry sometimes.
Right.
And so I have one of these casein shakes before I go to bed because that's like one thing that otherwise beforehand I solved that problem. I would like carb overload before I went to bed, get sleepy, go to bed, but I don't need, that's like, I know that that's going to add on a little weight and I don't like that. I don't know if I could do that.
Right.
Like I need something before I go to bed. The other thing too is my goals, trying to think like how would I use that? Maybe if I were trying to like lose a few pounds of fat, I might try it, but a lot of times I'm trying to add muscle. And so I worry if I work out later in the day, like at 6, and then I eat after that, and then like there's this whole period where my muscles are recovering and they need protein and, you know, carbs for energy to build. So I don't know if that would work for me. That's my personal reaction.
So on the first point about waking up hungry, I would be interested to see some food records here, Dr. Larry, to see if you are feeling hungry in the middle of the night. My guess would be that you're not having adequate veggies and fats and proteins the rest of the day.
Maybe not enough fat.
Right.
That's entirely possible.
So that's something, you know, oh, I'm hungry. How can I make eating earlier in the day a little more satisfying? When it comes,
I could certainly add fats.
when
I won't deny that.
when it comes to fueling exercise, you're absolutely right. Especially if you are a late in the day exerciser and you are doing lifting, your muscles need that protein replenishment for repair. So keep in mind that this 12-hour fast doesn't have to be on the nighttime end. You know, if you feel like you need to have that intake and then the protein drink before bed, and that's at 10 o'clock at night.
I mean, or I could just work out earlier if I wanted to try to.
That's an option. So, or if you're having your last protein drink or what have you at night at 10 p.m., wake up and see how you feel. Maybe you don't need to eat right away.
So to not make it all about me. So have you kind of made these changes with people and seen that they can lose weight with that, and that it can make a reasonable difference?
Absolutely. It is usually the idea of the 12-hour overnight fast or the 14-hour or wherever people are is usually done in conjunction with something else. Mm-hmm. So it is also talking about the importance of veggies and proteins and fats, etc. And so it's hard to single out what just the intermittent fasting, what effect that has. But what it also gives is people, not that I want to give people an eating schedule, but it gives them a rough structure. Because
I like structure.
Because let's face it, if we're eating after dinner into the evening, what is it usually?
Dessert, ice cream.
Yeah. And so if people say, oh, okay,
chocolate.
I know, busted. It's usually not veggies and hummus, right?
I'm about to brush my teeth, but I'm going to go grab one more stalk of broccoli.
Exactly. That's not usually the thing.
It's usually junk.
So what many people have said is to me is, Allison, it's nice just to have that structure. That I know that I'm getting up in the morning and I have breakfast at 7, and so I just know that I'm done eating by 7. And it's not that they're hungry or depriving or starving themselves.
Structure.
It's just giving them some framework.
How different is this intermittent fasting from don't eat 4 hours before you sleep? Is it the same thing or a little different?
It's a similar thing. I feel like 4 hours before you sleep is unrealistic for most people.
Too much.
My goal, it would be great. I can do it sometimes.
Or a few hours. But I feel like I've heard this thing like, don't eat too close before you sleep because you're going to go to sleep and your metabolism drops lower. You're not going to burn those calories. Is this kind of like that?
It's tied in, absolutely. Yeah. And my goal for people is to try and be done having calories 2, if not 3 hours before you're going to lay down. And part of it has to do with, you're more sedentary overnight. For some people, if they eat too late, they get indigestion. And
heartburn, sure.
It's uncomfortable. But also, if you think about it, our bodies are built on circadian rhythms, right? Mm-hmm. As it gets dark, our melatonin's pumping out, we're getting drowsy. Our body's kind of going into nighttime business, if you will. It's not like ready for daytime business.
Yeah.
And so when it's overloaded with all this digestion, it's like, I don't know what to do. And so it's working against your metabolism.
Did I make up that thing about people fasting 1 day a week kind of thing? Have you heard of that? Or am I just like off?
No, I'm sure it's out there. I'm sure there's some diet plan. I haven't seen a ton of research about the benefit of really longer fasts, and to be quite honest, I don't think that's realistic for the everyday person.
Yeah, it's a little too extreme.
I don't think I could fast for a day. I freak out if I have to have blood drawn in the morning and I can't eat breakfast. Okay, so
I've tried. I only last so long. I can't make it a whole day.
So I don't want to come out and say that doing a 1 or 2 or 3 day fast is not legitimate or not helpful. But I think that if we're trying to give everyday takeaways to people, that's not likely to be something that most people can do.
That's really interesting on intermittent fasting, and I'm gonna kind of think about it for me. Maybe you should think about it for you. Would that help you to get in better health, maybe lose a couple pounds? That's a good topic.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about, so what do you think about gut health and probiotics? Should everybody be eating live culture yogurt every day and taking probiotic supplements? There's all of this kind of explosion in the last couple of years about how all diseases are going through the gut now. And what do you think about all this?
I am so excited about gut health. and so that was another nerdy answer, wasn't it?
It's great, but you want your dietitian to be able to geek out a little bit, for sure.
I think that this is an exciting time for us as people in the medical world, because this is like the tip of the iceberg.
It's the beginning.
It's the beginning. And sometimes that frustrates people when I talk about it, because I don't know all the answers yet, right? We don't know what strains of bacteria, etc., are helpful, but here's what we know.
Okay.
We know that inside our gut are good, healthy bacteria. They're supposed to be there. People freak out when I tell them that, like it's a problem.
And by gut, we mean stomach, small intestine, and large intestine.
Specifically, we're talking about colon, the lower part of your intestine.
The large intestine. Okay.
Yes. And so there is good, healthy bacteria. And this bacteria is a crucial role in our immune system. It's a crucial role in us being able to make some nutrients for our body. It's a crucial role in digestion. And it's something that was really undervalued for a really long time. And what we are starting to see in the research is that having an imbalance in your gut bacteria, whether that's not enough of certain kinds, not enough variety across the board. Again, I don't even know the answers to this stuff because we're still learning it. But having certain imbalances in your gut is related to a host of all sorts of things, right? Autoimmune issues, brain issues, cancers, etc. And I think that there's a time, probably in our careers, when we're like an old doctor and an old lady dietitian. We'll be in
I don't know how I feel about that when I'm going to be.
We'll be in rocking chairs as we're talking about this.
You remember when we talked about those probiotics? Oh, man.
But there will be a time when you go to your doctor, and this is what I believe, that you can look at the bacteria in your gut and you'll be able to say, oh man, that you don't have enough of this one. Or
my lactobacillus is low. Of course I'm sick.
Of course. So in the meantime, what do we do about it? What's the takeaway?
Yeah, what are you telling your patients about it as a dietitian?
So from the standpoint of maintaining the good bacteria that you have, diet is huge. It goes back to, now this is going to sound familiar, it goes back to the importance of vegetables.
Shocker, right?
Healthy fats, okay, good quality proteins.
And what's good quality protein? We haven't really touched on that yet.
So when I'm talking about protein, I'm not talking about hot dogs and hamburgers and processed sausages and meats. I'm talking about eggs. And I'm talking about fish and poultry and nuts.
Fish and chicken and turkey.
As minimally processed as possible.
Less so red meat.
Yes. And so focusing your diet around those things, and then really trying to minimize the processed carbohydrates and sugar. What we know is that sugar and super processed carbohydrates, so chips, cookies, crackers, all of this stuff.
Cheetos. Right, junk food.
This stuff feeds what we are thinking is your bad bacteria, which can overwhelm the good bacteria.
Kind of the balance.
Yes.
It's almost a battle of good and evil in your gut.
Exactly. Exactly. And so yet another reason, we've talked about this protein, fat, veggie idea for weight control. We've talked about protein, veggie, fat idea for blood sugar control and diabetes. Guess what? Protein, veggie, fat for a healthy gut, right? It's all the same story.
It's all kind of connected, yeah.
In addition to that, there are foods that can help maintain, and I'm reluctant to use the word repopulate because I think we're thinking about that wrong. But we can ingest good, healthy bacteria to make sure that the balance is right. And we get good, healthy bacteria from foods like fermented foods, so kimchi, sauerkraut, miso.
I don't even know what these things are and how to put it in my diet.
Live active culture dairy products are usually a little bit more approachable for people.
The yogurt I've got.
Have you had kefir yet?
I don't even know what it is.
So kefir, you've got to try it. This is your homework assignment.
Like Kiefer Sullivan. That's what it makes me think of. Kefir.
So kefir is a cultured yogurt drink. It's the consistency of a smoothie.
Okay.
But it has, up to 20 or some odd strands of bacteria, good healthy bacteria.
Kefir.
Kefir.
Okay.
You can get it at any grocery store.
Okay.
It's widely available. And again, all of these are going to help introduce really, really good bacteria. One of the reasons that you and I first started talking about good bacteria was in the hospital setting with our patients who are on antibiotics.
Totally.
So you prescribe antibiotics.
That's
Why?
like an extreme example
Yes.
of antibiotics kill bacteria, and they don't know good versus bad, so they wipe out a lot of your gut bacteria.
Yeah.
And you're at a risk for horrible diseases in there.
Right.
C. diff and antibiotic-associated bacteria.
Diarrhea.
So we would always talk about
So I, several years
probiotics
ago, would either get every patient on an antibiotic, live culture yogurt, or I was always bugging you about probiotics. You love that. But I think it's important for those of you at home to know that if you go to the dentist and you're put on a 3-day course of antibiotics, eat some yogurt every day for a while.
Totally.
If you're put on a 7 to 10 day course of something for strep throat, have some yogurt. It certainly can't hurt. Because you're right, those antibiotics don't discriminate, right? They're just going to obliterate everything.
They just wipe everything out. I think this gut bacteria, probiotics, the relationship between food, your gut, and your health, I think it's fascinating. Like you said, there's a lot of research to be done. On the flip side of that, and you brought this up a little bit, healthy eating, mainly, I think fats and protein are important, but vegetables. The more vegetables you eat, the longer you're going to live. I think we know what habits. We know smoking kills, and eating more vegetables, you'll live longer. The mechanism seems to change. So a while ago, 5-10 years ago, it was all about antioxidants. Get your antioxidants, and then we studied supplementation of antioxidants and actually found if you take antioxidant vitamins and supplements in their own, you die sooner. So it was like, wow, maybe it's not the antioxidant. We still know it's the vegetables. We've got so much studies on that I think that's for sure. So to me, this is like a how. It's a mechanism. And it sounds like there's a lot of research and promise to it. I don't know that it changes the what. Maybe a little bit. Maybe there's some extra foods that we need to include more in our diet. But the basics that have gone back decades, hundreds of years, eat vegetables, eat more vegetables. That doesn't change. That's never going to change. Now we have greater understanding of how vegetables may help your gut health, and that in turn keeps you healthy, lowers your risk for autoimmune disease, heart, etc. I kind of look at it like a mechanism thing. So it's not like, no, don't push pause and wait for us to find out about it. No, keep eating healthy. We're going to find out more about it. Yeah, try some of these things. Add some of this other stuff, live culture yogurt. Should people take probiotics? Do you take a probiotic pill? What do you think about that?
I don't. I take probiotics if I'm ever put on antibiotics, but that's
Makes sense.
Few and far between. I think that taking a probiotic pill touches to exactly what you were just saying. I think that eating live, healthy cultures in food form, you get the whole picture, right? You get the benefit of the protein and the calcium and the other nutrients in the yogurt.
You get it all.
And supplements probably are a whole nother topic, but I think there's some really good ones out there, right? There's probably some that most people need to be taking, vitamin D, fish oil, stuff like that, but we need to be really careful about blanket recommendations because everyone's different, and the supplement industry is not regulated, so it's a little bit of the Wild West.
It's not the most trustworthy sell you something group of folks.
So to answer your question, getting probiotics from pill form is one of my least favorite options. However, if you don't eat dairy, or you don't like these foods, or you need, if that's the best option for you, then what I really recommend is that you do a little research and find companies who can show you that they've done research on their supplements. There's been articles out there where, they go to local drugstores, buy the supplements off the counter, and find that they're all dead, right? You're ingesting nothing. Whereas there are companies, right? These are usually the more expensive companies, the probiotics you're getting in the refrigerated section, etc., that seem to be legit. And those are the ones that, if you're going to take them, don't save money and by consuming something that's not going to help you out.
Certainly Whole Foods, always a good way to go.
Usually a good
Consuming
way to go.
Whole Foods. Well, let's wrap it up. This has been great. Got into a couple of issues here with probiotics and gut health, intermittent fasting. We'll have some articles for you. Where can people find out more about you? You have a website now.
I do. So you'll see more of me on your website, and hopefully this isn't the last time that I get to visit with you. Because it's been a little while.
It has been a while. Yeah. No, it's great to have you back. You're always welcome.
Thank you. But I have also started my own website venture just to share my thoughts. I'm always talking about this stuff, and I wanted a place where I could brain dump, if you will. And
what is that website?
And just put my feelings. And so if you go to putyourfoodtowork.com, again, all together, Put Your Food to Work. It speaks. The title of the name of the website speaks a lot to my approach. And
putyourfoodtowork.com.
Yeah. And you'll get to know me, the quirky side of me.
So you can check out Allison and more of her thoughts and blogs there. She will certainly be back on the Dr. Burchett Show and drlarry.com. It was great to have you.
Likewise. Go try that kefir.
Kefir. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.